Every PvP fight comes down to milliseconds, and bad settings, they'll cost you every single one. Here's how to turn your aim from shaky to deadly in under 10 minutes. Let's begin. Settings are surprisingly something a lot of people fail to actually change to suit their playstyle, being the fundamentals of how accurate your aiming and speed actually is. I'll show settings that apply to both console and PC first. The control type is best to be at standard FPS 2. This switches the run button to be on the R1/RB bumper to allow your thumb full freedom on the right analog stick to have full aim control. Although personally, I've been using standard control type since the start and have developed my own hand position to allow me to use all the needed buttons while still aiming. This is known as the claw, which some of you may know from Call of Duty. I recommend using standard FPS 2 if you're new to the game or not using the claw hand position, as you want your thumb on both analog sticks at all times during a gunfight. Next, turn off in-game depth of field effects. On PC, the post FX setting will need to be turned off for this to be available. What this does is remove the blur on the surrounding environment when aiming with a weapon, which is very important when sniping to give you a clear view of enemies inside the scope from any angle. This also increases the view distance of your camera, so the disadvantage of your enemy seeing you from far away without you being able to see them is reduced. As you can see here, just by aiming at this pole, it creates a blur on the background, which if you were in a sniping battle and there's cover like trees, poles and cars, your view of the enemy will go blurry until your scope adjusts again. Here's a clip of me sniping with this setting on. Watch how the enemies go blurry every time my scope aims near trees or poles. The brightness setting, the brighter the better. You'll easily see any opposition in dark areas or nighttime fights, which is handy in areas like the mountains where players camouflage naturally. With higher brightness, you should be able to spot them easily. The game won't look as nice, more like someone bleached your screen, but you can always turn it back down when you're not doing PvP. The next few settings are for first person. Having your camera in first person gives you more speed when strafing and running. The two most important settings to turn off are first person combat roll and ragdoll. Combat roll in first person is extremely annoying and spins your screen around with no clear view of your enemy. Turning it off lets you lock aim on a player after rolling, so when going back to back against someone, you're not limited by the camera spin. Turning off ragdoll works similarly. When you're hit by a vehicle, explosion or anything that knocks you down, the camera switches back to third person so you don't get disoriented and can instantly see what's happening. Generally, rolling or being ragdolled in first person adds unnecessary stress because your screen gives zero visual clarity. If you're prone to motion sickness, turn off head bopping. It not only prevents sickness, but makes first person smoother overall. With head bopping on, the camera shakes slightly when running, which some people find nauseating. With it off, the view is steady, easier on the eyes and feels faster. It also makes it easier for your brain to track enemies because the image is stable. Next, put first person aim/look dead zone all the way down, and first person aim/look acceleration all the way up. This makes your input snappier and more responsive. A faster reaction time that can win you gunfights. Sensitivity for both first and third person is up to preference, but remember, higher sensitivity means faster turns and better target switching. Experiment in deathmatches or with bots to find your comfort zone. When sniping, set aim sensitivity low for long range accuracy. Higher sensitivity makes aiming too twitchy. Finally, for first person, turn off auto camera. What this does is automatically center your view when not touching the stick. Turning it off gives you full freedom of where you're looking. For example, if you're fighting someone above or below you, the camera won't constantly reset to center after aiming. It's also useful when tracking aircraft. Otherwise, the camera keeps forcing itself forward unless you constantly hold the stick up. Trust me, you want this off. Now, for PC, set field of view to max. This gives you full side vision for spotting enemies or information that can save you in PvP. It makes movement feel smoother and faster too. A mental edge in fights. In most FPS games, max FOV is optimal, and GTA is no different. For example, if you're fighting someone on a rooftop, a zoomed in FOV limits your side view, but zoomed out gives you a much wider perspective, essential in multi-enemy fights. The mouse input method should be set to raw input to remove mouse acceleration and turn off fine aiming control. Lower mouse sensitivity helps with precision without feeling awkward. Finally, key bindings. Crucial for PC players. Quick weapon switching can be the difference between winning and losing. Bind your RPG to Q for quick access when reacting to vehicles or jets. Bind your snipers to keys 1 and 2 for fast switching during sniper duels without wasting time in the weapon wheel. That's the end of the video. Now go out there and dominate the lobbies.